Hey guys, welcome to Zimaleta How To Show. In today's episode, I would like to continue what I have started in the last episode, but a little bit more detailed, kind of like as to what's going on. You know how I was like telling you guys that my engine was shutting off before, and I was gonna go on a test drive, and after the test drive, I was gonna shoot a video. Well, that's that video. The code that's concerning me is P0204. It's basically injector circuit like malfunctioned for fuel injector like number 4. Like it's kind of like an open circuit of some sorts. Okay, so I usually don't do this, but I used to a very long time ago, is to actually take the code and look it up to see kind of like what's going on with actual codes. In this type of situation, what I did is I actually went ahead and looked it up, and believe it or not, there's actually a lot of information online regarding this code, and I'm gonna try to basically touch on that code and try to see if it actually matches with some of my understanding, kind of like what was going on, to see if I was wrong or right, to see what the dealer kind of thinks or the mechanic. I think I have found a pretty good source for that information. So basically, PO 204. I'm trying to actually remember everything from memory, guys. I'm not really reading any scripts. I probably should start that, you know, because definitely some of this stuff is kind of like mind-boggling and really detailed. So PO 204 code, it's basically, some of the causes of this code is like faulty ECM. Of course, kind of like, you know, they're gonna point to that, but keep in mind, this is the second ECM that I have replaced. You know, it's my own ECMs from other vehicles, so it did not cost me any money, so that's not the issue. Like another issue that they say is poor well, shorted out wiring harness. Now that one's is going to be most likely scenario to me, along with like electrical problem, you know. And also could be fail in fuel injector. That's also a likely one, but I would hate to really admit that one, at least in my situation, but I do gotta point it out. So it's a faulty ECM, either that or wiring harness or bad electrical connection, or of course fuel injector is getting ready to fail. So that's kind of like the causes. I will continue with more stuff. I'm actually reading it, and I'm trying to make a video at the same time. I haven't read anything else to see kind of like what's going on. Oh yeah, I do want to tell you guys one thing. I did grease all the electrical connections, because that was one thing that I was gonna do before replacing a fuel filter. I don't want to have to throw on a fuel filter, then I'm going to be misled to think if the problem has went away, I'm gonna think, well, fuel filter fix it. And I don't want to tell you this, guys, because I want to test out every little thing. Hey guys, I actually just got a call and stuff, and it interrupted excuse me, what I was trying to say. I'm not being like really professional right now when it's coming to making videos. A lot of times when I make videos on the fly, I have information right now ready to go, and I really have no time to really pull out my gadgets to try to film, because I'm trying to actually get it to you guys as quick as possible while it's still fresh in my mind, because there's just so much to really think about when it comes to these things. And guys, I really am passionate, if you cannot tell already, to really get in this information. Oh man, I'm sorry, I got this thing stabilized on my steering wheel and it's moving. I'm really passionate to getting this information to you guys, so you guys will know exactly kind of like what to do when it comes to your Sprinter malfunctioning with these kind of things, you know. And I'm pretty sure you could tell that that's what I'm doing. So guys, we were talking about some of the problems. Okay, so I have basically greased the electrical connections. I use this special like electrical contact. It's supposed to like improve the contact, electrical contacts when you grease the connections. So I have greased every single fuel injector connector, including all the sensors, including basically everything that I could reach. I have greased. Okay, the only thing I haven't greased is the stuff underneath the vehicle. I do think it's a good idea to do it. I don't think it's going to hurt anything, and I'm definitely all for it, because it's going to keep things from rusting or causing a poor connection, or maybe you know how it is. It's sometimes they get like these build up of this green stuff. I'm not sure, I cannot really think of what it is right now. but I'm sure you guys have seen it before, on especially on when it comes to like battery cables. Sometimes they'll have the buildup of green stuff. I actually don't have any of that stuff built up on mine, but I'm sure you guys kind of like know what I'm talking about. So that actually could happen inside electrical connections, and I have seen it happen before on a Sprinter. So especially in the system that controls your blower motor, I have really seen really bad connection, like they've been completely rusted out. So I'm thinking grease possibly could help those things from happening. From that probably happens like due to oxidation, you know, kind of like because they're copper connections. If you could kind of think about what Statue of Liberty looks like, green, and kind of same things are happening, except when they do happen in electronics, it could mean that now you can have a poor circulation of you know, electrical connections and stuff. So guys, I have greased all the connections for as far as the test drive goes. Okay, I've drove it around, man. I drove it around. I basically try to recreate the problem. It has not come back. The check engine light is still off, and I know I'm sounding like disappointing, and I kind of am a little bit, but at the same time, you know, that has to be because I'm not convinced. I'm thinking maybe the problem's still there and it's hiding itself. And this is kind of like, guys, if some of you guys taking your car to the dealership, it's like, oh, it was doing it and now it's not doing it, like, and it feels like it's scared of a mechanic. But sometimes it's so hard to recreate what was going on to cause a certain problem, and then it's gone, you know, it does not come back. So at this point, basically the problem is not occurring, okay, at this point. But I'm not convinced yet, because it took almost a week for the problem to actually show up with me doing a lot of different driving. But I did normal driving. This time I did very slow driving. I did hard acceleration driving. I did uphill driving. I tried to do various type of circumstances to cause the problem to come back, okay? So anyways, let's get back to the code. I'm going to try to learn a little bit more about it. I'll get back to you guys in just a short bit. I have read a little bit more about it. The information is very lengthy, and this might turn into like a very lengthy video, but here are some problems that occur when you got P0204. Basically, your engine can misfire. It's going to like have like a poor performance. Engine can die and it will not start, you know, things of that nature. Now, I don't have a poor performance of the engine. It actually performs very well. Now, engine dies and will not start. It happened like a long time ago, except it did not start while moving. It did start when I actually pulled over, so that kind of counts, and it doesn't at the same time. Poor performance, basically I'm not getting poor performance. Of course, poor fuel economy. Yes, I did get poor fuel economy when I was driving back from upstate New Jersey down to where I live. The economy is really horrible. I didn't see what it was. Of course, guys, right now I already drove a little bit over 100 miles on the fresh tank of diesel. I'm going to actually try to refuel again, and I did a lot of local driving. Just, this is not highway or anything. Later in this video, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to get fuel again. I will measure the fuel economy, see kind of like where it's at, if it's bad or good. You guys will know about it. So let me see. There's some other concerns when it comes to this type of code, and they're trying to address it. So I'm gonna try to see, guys. One thing to note, I just actually remembered that I forgot to say when the engine does shut off or the check engine light comes on when it detects a problem, it actually puts your engine in a fail-safe mode, and until the problem is fixed or you clear the code. So that's actually what it does, and I always clear the code, you know, so the problem leaves immediately and it does not come back for a while. At least right now it hasn't. So later on today, I'm going to try to see if it does come back. I'm going to do a little bit more driving, but let me see what some of the concerns are, why it puts your engine in safe. It says basically caution was advised. I thought it was going to continue and to kind of say that, you know, this is going to happen if you don't fix it, but none of that was there. Basically now it's trying to see like what is the mechanic going to do to try to diagnose this problem, and they go into really lengthy type of details, something that mechanic is going to be more familiar with, or somebody kind of like myself, even though I follow my own procedure. I don't quite have that particular procedure, but basically they're going to try to read the codes, and then they're going to try to read like freeze data frames, and I know like I'm not saying it right, but basically they're going to try to record the data with using their type of a scan tool that they're going to use, and to try to, like, when they record freeze frame data or something, that will tell them at what conditions the code was triggered. So they're going to try to then clear all the codes and do like a visual inspection, drive the vehicle, and to try to recreate the code in those conditions. And they're also going to try to test fuel injector number 3, which in the beginning, that's actually what was being triggered. Right now, it's injector number 4. But they're going to try to read the voltages and to see if the fuel injector is opening up for long enough, to see if it's performing properly. And of course, there's this little Noid that they could install on the between the fuel injector's wiring and the actual wiring harness. It's going to be able to light up and kind of like show if it's like proper readings and stuff for the fuel injector circuit and stuff, if it's working properly. So there's just a lot of that, basically, some test driving, kind of like similar stuff what I'm doing right now, except I'm not using any fancy tools. A lot of stuff I end up fixing is just me and my own brain and my own hands and regular tools that anybody could get. Now, if I was not like mechanically inclined, reading all that information, I'd say, wow, look at all that stuff, and I would be like really confused as a normal consumer or like a van operator. That would really probably scare me, but I'm not intimidated by it or scared by it, because that's kind of stuff is logical to me, and a lot of that stuff, they make it look harder than it really is. But in a way, it's good the way it's explained. It's really giving a lot of detailed information to try to be able to better understand kind of like what's going on. And for somebody like me, that's really helpful, because I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, I've done that, I've done this, maybe I should try that. But as of right now, everything that I have read, pretty much I've done everything that I can at this stage. So I'm going to try to see what else they're going to talk about to let you guys know, because I want you guys to know the same information. And I'll leave a link in the description to try to give you guys a source where I got this, and probably I'm going to copy and paste in the description. That way you could read all that stuff yourself. But I think it is helpful for somebody to kind of like touch on those subjects and to kind of like explain some of the stuff a little bit better, because sometimes by reading you still need logic, you still need to be able to kind of like understand kind of like what's going on. Okay, so right now the problem is still not being pointed to the fuel filter, which in a way it's a good thing, because it's a little bit unrelated of sorts, even though when something shuts off, it feels like the fuel injector is being starved. Of course, I'm kind of leaning towards something that was run with a circuit. Hopefully I fixed it with that little electrical type of grease. I doubt it. It seems like I did. But I'm definitely leaning towards maybe fuel injector is getting ready to fail, or somehow the circuit, the actual wire and harness, somehow that is not that good. Except this is original Mercedes equipment. I have only 250,000 miles on this engine. I actually just counted it early today. So I know it seems like it's a lot of miles, guys, but I drove this engine from day one. So I'm the one that put all the miles on it. I know the way it's been performing, and in my experience, I have never had a fuel injector failure. Now, I did have problem before with the wiring harness, which I did actually buy a brand new one and replaced. And that's because the one that I had, somebody really tapped into it, trying to diagnose it, probably like every single wire, and they messed it up by doing it. Because when I got the vehicle, it had 650,000 miles, and it had open wiring that was already kind of greenish because it's copper wiring, so obviously moisture has gotten to it. So there was all kinds of electrical codes that I had that I could not even get rid of. I drove with those codes just fine. Maybe poor economy, but I was getting like 22 to 24 miles per gallon with that old engine that I repaired, and it finally died through a rod at 844,000 miles. But I had it since 650,000, so I was able to really get some miles out of it, and took care of it, and really that engine was a huge lesson to me. I experienced just about every single problem you could experience in that thing. I did have to replace fuel injectors, but not for the reason that the electrical has went out or the actual fuel injector. It's because sometimes the fuel injector seal goes bad and they start leaking, and you have to address that problem by replacing that fuel injector or cleaning it up really good. Sometimes you need to replace the fuel injector because they're stuck so bad you'll damage the fuel injector in the process, because you either have to take it apart or you just mess it up in the process by banging on and stuff like that, because you cannot be really tapping on the fuel injectors with any kind of tools, because you will actually mess it up. There's very tiny crystals inside of it, and those things get misaligned, you're gonna have all kinds of problems that the fuel injector just might not even work. So I hope, guys, it's not a fuel injector. If it is, I know how to replace it. I could show you guys how to do it properly. Hopefully Mercedes on this engine, when they installed fuel injectors, they used special high temperature grease to cause the fuel injectors not to oxidize and to help better keep them from being stuck, because oxidation happens with the fuel injector being made out of steel and the engine is aluminum. And because the fuel injector is in there, even though it's not touching the walls, oxidation process happens and it really gets seized down in there, you know. And of course, if it's a leaking gasket, you get all kinds of tar buildup in there from all the diesel fumes getting in there, and actually turns into tar, and it's black gooey stuff that they call the Black Death. You could look it up, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people call it that. But I know, guys, this is getting lengthy because, man, I'm a really type of a person that I make a lecture about everything when it comes to this kind of stuff, because when somebody watches my videos, I want you to get as much information about a specific problem as much as possible, because when it comes to electrical stuff, I think no amount of information is too much. I personally, if I would find videos like mine, if I didn't know what the heck I was doing, I think it would be really helpful, because I really try to relay as much information as possible. Even though there's so much more in my head, I cannot get it out fast enough to really help. So I have to really focus on specific type of things and only talk about related type of stuff with this type of problem, and kind of things that I tried and did. That way it could help you maybe hunt for your problem, because I know one thing: I'll find a problem. I'll find it definitely and fix it. So let me see what else it says, and I'll get guys. I dived in. I have read a little bit more on the process. It's kind of basically saying, you know, what some of the things that you know you need to do to actually address this issue, and they basically immediately hop to replace injector number 3, even though in those same type of sentences they were talking about P02, what the heck is that called? P0204 or something. Yeah. I'm thinking about so much, I'm already messing up on a most simple thing, like a check engine code. So basically, they were saying that's a common code for fuel injector number 4, okay? But a fix that they're showing is they're saying replace fuel injector number 3. Replace, okay? Also, one other thing they put in there, and they basically highlight those things, so that seems like the most important thing that they'll do at the dealer: replace that TCM. Wait a minute, ECM or TCM. What the heck did they put? Because a TCM is a transmission control module, but basically ECM, that's what they have. Electronic control module. So basically that would be the computer, and that would be very expensive, and I don't think it's a computer here. Okay, we're not dealing with a computer for sure. Now the other two things they're basically talking about: improve the electrical connections, which I think I did, and another one thing is replace the wire and harness, which possibly what I might end up doing. I'll just take another harness from a different vehicle. It's probably not possible that it's going to recreate the same type of problem because it's a different harness. So that is probably what I'm gonna end up doing. Let's see what else. Basically, yeah, like it says this problem on scale from like 1 through 5 is a 3. It can cause basically poor performance of the engine, it basically dying and not restarting. You know, it's going to start up bad and that kind of stuff. It seems pretty serious. It seems all the kind of stuff that really causes your engine to really do badly. Now, this code is actually really common, and especially in high mileage vehicle. Is mine high mileage at 255 when I actually have a vehicle now? My body of this vehicle is now like 1,100,000. I almost don't think that's high miles at all, considering my miles and the amount of miles that I put on it. So right now I have to lean at the connections being bad. I haven't messed with the actual wire and harness. That's why I'm kind of thinking, why would it be bad? Now, it might be common with the electrical connections being bad. That I can understand, because that can happen. I mean, it's context, really. So who knows? And there's a little bit more information. They're trying to go into detail, and I haven't read it yet. Kind of like them thinking about it. So let me read that information and see if I could get anything new. All right, guys. Basically, in their little theory, kind of like they were like in their comment section that basically they are the ones that posted this thing, trying to comment like regarding this type of problem. And in their terms, a high mileage vehicle is basically a vehicle over 100,000 miles, which definitely mine qualifies. Now, guys, one of the things they mentioned, that it is very common in this type of vehicle with over 100,000 miles that the fuel system can be contaminated. And now that's what I'm talking about. And it can cause basically like electronic components to fail, or the fuel injectors to get stuck, because if the fuel is kind of contaminated and kind of dirty, it will, you know, get particles that it shouldn't have in a fuel injector, causing the fuel injector to become damaged, I guess, because it's got like stuff in there. And here's what they do mention is one of the solutions. They say like a fuel injector cleaner, like seafoam, and that's actually what I used. It's going to be like a cheaper alternative than replacing a fuel injector. So still though, you know, I'm kind of thinking, you know, why injector number 3 or why 4? If the fuel is contaminated, why not contaminate all fuel injectors? So that possibly can be very costly. And at the same time, if there's a fuel filter, why isn't it catching this type of stuff? And in my understanding, I believe it does. This is probably why I feel that when my fuel injector, well, you know, when that code comes on, before it comes on, I feel that my fuel injectors are being starved of diesel, maybe at least one of them. I can hear these little clicking, and I know that's injector clicking, and it sounds like dry clicking, like it's almost kind of like it's not receiving its diesel. And then of course the code comes on, and that's why I kind of wanted to replace the actual fuel filter, because maybe I got so much contamination in my fuel tank that it's actually clogging up my fuel filter to begin with. So possibly I need to replace fuel filters a little bit more often. So there is another method, is to clean fuel injectors directly with seafoam. And that's probably what I'm going to try next. I'm probably going to stop by Walmart, pick up another bottle of seafoam, and I'll show you guys maybe tomorrow a way to actually clean fuel injectors directly using seafoam, because I definitely think has to be something mechanically wrong with the fuel injector. And of course the electronic code will be triggered because it's not getting enough diesel. And that's what I'm kind of telling you guys. This is why sometimes you have to think these things through. Of course it's going to trigger some kind of code if it's being starved of diesel. Like, why would it not? So it's going to throw a circuit code, because maybe that's all it's programmed in there, to throw a circuit code. But really it might be because poor circulation of diesel, because it's there's contamination happening in fuel injector. There's stuff, there's particles that's in there that's causing blockages. So every so often it will be just enough to cause a problem with the fuel injector, basically getting no fuel, being starved, and shutting the engine off. Okay, so I don't know if that made any sense to you guys, but I'm pretty you know, certain that it should, because I've really tried to like really look at these things in great detail. So what I do want to pick up, a brand new fuel filter. Okay, Now, while cleaning stuff with seafoam, right now I got seafoam in my fuel tank. So I think when it's cleaning, it actually might bring up some particles and actually cause more problems actually in a fuel filter, because it's going to bring up contaminants into the fuel filter, which can be not that good, because obviously I'll have to replace that fuel filter again. So hopefully guys, it's going to help by me actually replacing the fuel filter, and that's going to be enough to actually fix the problem. If it is, then of course I'll tell you guys, but I'm gonna try to drive it some more and see if the problem is going to come back or not, you know, and I'll let you guys know as far as that goes. And for tomorrow, I'd like to actually still do a cleaning of fuel injectors, because while it's still running, while they're not being blocked up all the way, I think it's important to run some kind of fuel cleaner directly to the fuel injectors to clean them up just a little bit better, and hopefully, you know, make them clean again, and not cause them to go out, because I just don't want that to happen. Now, some of the things I do want to recommend you guys before this problem happens to you, if you can, if you have time, remove your fuel tank and just clean it. You know, just remove any kind of contaminants from it, because I think it might be some soot in there, you know, from all the ages, well, ages, you know, all the years and all the mileage that you've been putting on and all the diesels that you've been putting in there. There might be some soot in there, and some of it might break off and go into the fuel filter, and you know, and hopefully not get past that to the fuel injectors, but it still can. I've seen a vehicle with 30,000 miles that a guy had problem with all his fuel injectors, and this is actually what he did. It was running fine. He fueled it up and actually put a fuel injector cleaner in there, and boom, problem happened. All the fuel injectors went out because they got all contaminated, and he tried everything before the fuel injectors, and still that was the fuel injectors. So anyways guys, I think this is going to be it for today, because it's already really long. In the next video, I'll, you know, when I'm going to be doing cleaning of the fuel injectors directly, I'll tell you guys how this drive went, what kind of fuel economy am I getting, and I think that's going to be a good test to compare, and to continue that video later on to see if any performance improvements happened. Did the problem go away? Did the fuel economy get better? So I'll touch base on that in the next video. So thank you guys for watching. You know, I hope this was good information. If it was, hit a like, put in the description below what do you think, and if this information has helped you in any way. So thank you guys again. God bless you. Bye bye, and good luck with your Sprinter.